Um, 2 weeks ago, a, an opinion writer, Douglas McKinnon, basically had opinioned that he didn't believe that the former squatter Trump would run again in 2024. And he said, boy, did he get some serious pushback from his political friends, telling him that Trump is a megalomaniac, and that there is no way he's not going to sit out the next presidential election. Um, my rationale and basically Douglas McKinnon's rationale in that piece for his not running was, my hope is that Trump's massive ego will allow enough room for him to contemplate that his name is so toxic to tens of millions of Americans that his nomination might instigate massive civil unrest. If Trump does believe in our nation as he claims he does, then he should know that it would be much better to sit out the election and try to use his influence to help the party's nominee. One of Douglas McKinnon's friends, who had a high level political career, openly laughed in McKinnon's face when he offered up that opinion. He in turn gave me a definition of megalomaniac that he had just looked up on his phone. A megalomaniac who is a pathological egotist, that is someone with a psychological disorder with symptoms like delusions of grandeur and obsession with power. Basically, they mentioned Trump. And this is what Douglas McKinnon's friend continued to say over a coffee. It is the personification of that definition. He doesn't care if he's toxic to tens of millions of voters or who turns out in the streets to protest his run. Do you believe his ego actually allows him to logically think things through? Look at Arizona. Look at Georgia. By Arizona, it meant that Trump knew he had to win the state in 2020. He also knew that the late Senator John McCain, who was a decorated war hero, was seen as the patron saint of the state to hundreds of thousands of voters. And Trump knew that if he continued to insult McCain, he would turn off a great many of those voters, and yet his unchecked ego could not stop itself. Consequently, he proceeded to lose the state and its 11 electoral votes by fewer than 11,000 votes out of the 3.3 million that were cast in that state. Um, Next, we come to Georgia. Out of almost 5 million votes that were cast, Trump lost the state and its 16 electoral votes by just under 12,000. Gee, I'll bet he secretly wishes he hadn't demonized the mail-in voting after that result. Then after he did lose the state, he also helped to flush the chances of the two Repug candidates for the U.S. Senate down the toilet. Trump continually cried fraud while smearing, which there wasn't any, but while smearing the Repug leaders in the state. If you were looking for a formula to depress the Repug vote, that would be one. And then quite surreally, some of Trump's sycophants were urging the Georgia Repugs not to vote in the Senate runoff elections that would determine which party would control the Senate come up to 2021. But no one, perhaps, was surprised to note that approximately 250,000 fewer Repugs had voted in the Senate runoffs than in the general election. When we look at the final vote tally of those special elections, and we see that Senator John Ossoff, who's a Democrat from Georgia, beat the former Senator David Perdue, who's a Repug from Georgia, by just 55,000 votes, and Senator Raphael Warnock, a Democrat from Georgia, also beat the former Senator Kelly Loeffler, who's a Repug from Georgia, by about 93,000 votes. We can safely surmise that Trump and his sycophants hit another level of stupid when it comes to politics. Um, as Douglas McKinnon's friend offered to bet me that Trump will definitely run again in 2024, a bet that I cowardly declined, he threw in one more bit of trivia atop the pathological egotist pile. The letters for Trump's MAGA acronym are all included in megalomaniac. It's amusing to be in a way, but also in a scary kind of way. All of that being said, I still don't believe that Trump will run for president in 2024, or basically squatter, because he wasn't really a president to begin with. While the pushback that Douglas took may have helped to convince me that Trump is never going to put our country before his ego, I do believe that same ego, along with his advancing age, he'll be 78 when he tries to run again in 2024. It will force him to decline another run. That ego might tell him at 78 years old we don't need a humiliating loss that's heaped upon us because now 90 million Democratic voters came out to crush us, while 30 million fewer Repugs voted for us in 2020 because of Trump fatigue. And it's no much better to not run and to continue to claim voter fraud happened in 2020 while we ride off into a Mar-a-Lago sunset. In my estimation, Donald Trump would be wise to listen to that voice of that ego, which we know he's not going to. So if you liked the video, give the video a like and subscribe to my channel, RBW King, and also hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified when a new video comes out, and thanks for listening.